They use drones and satellite imagery.
People are still getting food, so.
Oh, okay.
Maybe second, maybe if you want to go first, I can have you go first. Maybe more people will come in.
All right. Where do you live? Sure. That's my upbringing. Either North Regatta or the New York South Regatta. We've only been here 7 years. We bought a place over on Gresham. Almost finished rehabbing it. And once that's done, it'll be a rental. And we thought about going back to Pleasanton, but it's just, yeah, it's $2 million for a dump.
You can see the camera view.
Watch the live.
Yes.
Just have to remember it's there, not on in front of you.
Yes.
We've got our first panel to talk about live art. I'll let them introduce themselves and explain what the program is, but it's, I consider it a wonderful addition to Valeo's, I don't know, we call ourselves first responders. Michael, get a little housekeeping done here. I do want to introduce the board members that we have present. I guess I'll start on the left. That's Christine Gibson there. No Phillips. Cynthia Lau, our fascinating, our very talented editor, I should say. Our treasurer, Sam Levis.
I didn't recognize
Lisa Williamson. Lisa. The Shores. Let's see who else we have here. I'm Joseph David, president. I live in the Headlands. Oh yes, hi, Nancy. Ralph Narstall, vice president. Oh, Frank Overton. Okay. We also wanted to get a show of hands really quickly on how everyone found out about the meeting. Because we spent a couple $1,000 on sending postcards out a couple times a year. We want to see if that's worth it. So can I get a show of hands how many people came because they got a postcard in the mail? All right. Well, the email list, because I know that's that's good to know. Any other way, like the community board that we have at Safeway? No? Okay. There's a lot of money for that too. Okay, I also see some teachers here, nice to meet you, board representatives. Okay. Okay, so for tonight, the agenda, we're going to start with the High Heart program. Then we have Christine who's going to talk about the new development that's coming to Glen Cove, purportedly, which is called Vista Cove. It's, for those who don't know, the developers are planning to make about, 50 houses? I'll let her give you the details. At the end of Robles. Oh, we also have Deputy Police Chief Bobby Knight, who I see is going to be our second speaker. And he'll be talking about Vallejo Vision. And then we have a team from the Cultivate Community Food Co-op, David McAdams and Steve Mentos. They're here especially in light of the fact Safeways has just closed here in Vallejo. And then we have Mandy from Soul Trans. So there are going to be some bus route changes, which will probably negatively affect Glen Cove. So she can talk about that. Hopefully the mayor will be able to stop by, but she did text me that she's very tired, so I don't know if that means that she's going to make it. She's currently at a 2x2 meeting. And just a reminder also, our garage sale is, we had the mother lobby come to us and say, please don't do it Mother's Day weekend. So we pushed it back a couple weekends, and we're not doing traditional Saturday before Mother's Day. So the Glen Cove garage sale will be May 31st. That was also on the postcard. And we'll be sending out emails to remind you about that too. And then just a few more things. Let's see. We've got National Night Out. We're also going to do that again the first Tuesday of August. We'll probably talk about a couple other things in the open session as well. But now I'm going to hand it over to the great people at iHeart. Okay, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi everybody, my name is Katie Burns, and I've been. Can you hear me? Okay, what about now? Better. All right, my name is Katie Burns, and I'm the admin data analyst over at the iHeart program, and I'm also a community liaison.
Hello everyone, my name is Raymond Williamson. I'm the program manager of the iHeart program, but Katie is the face. So I guess I'll give you guys who either have heard of iHeart but really don't know who we are, or haven't heard of us at all. So we are the Vallejo PD program. We respond to low-level 911 calls. And what that looks like to us is a call that doesn't require an armed officer or a sworn officer. So we respond to a lot of behavioral health, mental health, welfare type calls at this time. We also are now part of Vallejo PD Impact Team. And what that looks like is when there's a big scene, a big crime in the community, we're now part of the team that comes out kind of explain what has happened, what the situation was, and what it looks like moving forward. We also have began to get into a lot of our schools. Early on, we was experiencing a lot of calls from the school district of just young people with behavioral health issues, mental health issues. So we just saw that as a sign of, it needs to be, a little more present, a little more engaging. So we've been able to do workshops, assemblies, and things like that, just to get our young people engaged, kind of hear their concerns or their needs, and then kind of create a program around those things. Other things we've been talking about, as a team is just, how do we find programming or things for our seniors? How do we support our seniors? So that's something that we're still talking about.
And we answer low-level 911 calls. We're here for the community. So inside we have a behavioral health specialist, anything from free to you just need someone to talk to, or someone else in the community who's suffering from any type of mental, I don't want to call it illness, but mental issue or sexuality challenge. There we go, better one. So we're here for you guys, not just 911 calls. And I think one of the questions was, do we call 911? Yes. Call 911, ask for iHeart, or you explain to the dispatch what's going on, and they'll figure out where to route the call to.
I know you also do outreach, and you mentioned an example when I heard you speak at another event about having a neighbor who was unable to open a bottle of pills being a reason to call 911 and ask for iHeart. And maybe you can give the times that you're open, and if funding persists, which we're hoping, how you could expand here in Vallejo, and also show off and say how many calls you've addressed since you've been live. It's impressive.
Okay, so we have a few examples. So like I said, this crisis. So 911 crisis is different to each person. So that could mean a crisis could be if your neighbor has milk packing up or stocked up, and you just want someone to go over and do a welfare check. That's an iHeart call. Sorry. So you have a neighbor who has mail stacking up, and you just want somebody to do a welfare check. That's an iHeart call. That's something that we can do date, you've answered, let's say about over 1,000 calls right now. And so we have a response time anywhere from 7, to 9 minutes. We feel like we're going to take that. But again, we answer low level. We're not PD. We're just trying to take calls off of PD that we can't answer. We understand that they're swamped. So we're just trying to come out and do things that don't take police presence. So again, it's okay to call 911, ask for iHeart, or again, explain the situation, and we will come out.
I don't need to hog all the questions, and we'll certainly have some Q&A, but I do want you to also show up about the outreach, because you're not just sitting behind a desk, you're actually going out and some of the young house and the other people who are to in the community by name, and so you're actively out there doing outreach.
So once a month right now, we do partner. So the Boys and Girls Empowerment Group, we do have a local caterer, and so we do hot meals. Once a month, we go out and we serve hot meals to unhoused. We also do just outreach. Again, you'll see us out in our green shirts. You'll see our vans. We're often walking the streets. We have resource fairs. We come out and we have resource fairs, tabling, just giving out information, letting everybody know again, we are in the community, we are part of the community, we answer as community. We cannot arrest, we cannot keep you 150, so you will often see us again, just walking the streets at a grocery store. I've been here over 17 years. You see my children right in the front. You'll see me regularly at the same place because it's 50% off. I will be there. So again, we are a community. When I say outreach, I'm at the library. We're out just everywhere in Vallejo, trying to let you guys know that we are here and you do have another option, here for you guys right now. So as far as you guys want to get involved, that once-a-month feeding, if you guys know any places that we can go, if you want to donate, we're always looking for things like that. We do have a summer program coming up. And a lot of our 911 calls are coming from the school system. We created a summer program around them, just trying to ground them, teaching them life skills, wellness. And so that's one thing that we do with the community wellness mapping. Come in, again, we just navigators, and we just try to get people to resources. So if there's something you guys need, we're willing to help you guys try to figure out what that is and how we can get you guys that help.
I think another aspect to our program is when we have that first encounter, we also do a follow-up. So if we get a call on someone today, within 72 hours, that initial team that engaged that individual will go and follow up with them. Was the service that they were connected to, was that helpful? Are there other needs? And again, we just try to bridge different gaps, whatever that looks like. To the question of, this was early on in our service. You had an elderly gentleman recently released from the hospital, home alone. And he called 911 a couple of times. They sent us over for a welfare check. We went to help him open his medication, but we ended up, standing there maybe 20, 30 minutes, just, having conversation. Oftentimes, people just want to feel human, want to feel heard when you show up to these calls. And unlike me, we have the time to really sit there, and engage and figure something out on the spot. One thing we kind of pride ourselves on in engaging an individual, what's the immediate barrier? What's something that we can help with right now to kind of get you from point A to point B? And we try to stay with individuals until they reach a point of stability, whatever that looks like for that individual. So, it's just more for us, like Katie was saying, half our team, more than half our team live in Vallejo. And, in our meetings, in our conversations, we like to show up, do work in a way that we can be proud of. We out in the community, we see our neighbors, we see individuals that we responded to and responded for. And so far, it's been a pleasant, engagement, a pleasant response. People have been thankful. So, that's our barometer. How is the community responding? Are we proud of the work that we're doing? Do we feel that, hey, I'm going home, is it okay for me to go to the supermarket, right? You know what I mean? But again, we kind of pride ourselves on that. Let's do work that we're proud of. We can hold our heads high because we really feel accountable to this burden. Yes, sir.
If there's questions, you can come
What is the response time for showing up to somebody who wants to call?
Between 7 and 9 minutes. Yeah, between 7 and 9 minutes, most likely.
How will we know if it's an iHeart volunteer? Is there a community service vehicle? Is there just your green shirts? How do we know if somebody has arrived in my home or the home I've called about service going to?
So we definitely have 2 visibly marked vehicles with iHeart pretty much on every face of the vehicle. The green shirts and more or less either tan pants and black, but you will see the green shirts in the vehicle marked.
And as you know, right? I obviously got the memo, but we also have Representative John Fox here. He lives here in Glen and he happens to be president of the Vallejo City Unified School District as well. Okay, any other questions for the iHeart folks?
No, it's great work you're doing. Yes, it is. Great. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Like that.
There you go.
What about disputes with neighbors?
We have arrived at a couple of those. Those that hasn't gotten violent, there aren't weapons involved, but you have the verbal disputes, not only between neighbors, sometimes between parent and child, who's showing up for those type of things as well.
I might have missed it, I might have mentioned it already. How many members are on your team, and are you available 24/7?
So right now, there are 7 members, 7 responders on the team. We're moving towards 5 days a week. We were 7 days a week for a while, from 6 to 6. And then just kind of, I guess, honing our skills, so to speak. So right now, I think soon we'll be moving to more like 5 days a week.
If you get the funding, though, they could go more hours and more staff, for example. So that is part of the equation, right? I mean, your future is uncertain. It's not like you're funded indefinitely, are you?
No, we're not funded.
Yeah, so let's keep that in mind when we go to market funding.
Right now, we're funded through grants.
Oh. That's not part of our budget.
Right. That's what that means. Thanks.
So are there volunteer opportunities and informal training for those who are choosing to volunteer?
So we actually recently been having that conversation with our leadership, and obviously that's something we would have to share with PD and kind of get input and figure out what that looks like. We haven't moved in that space yet in terms of volunteers. Definitely, if we do have volunteers, we suspect there will be some type of training, some type of onboarding, and what that looks like. But right now, it's just been an internal conversation.
Any other questions for the iHeart team?
Yes, our home office is at 2 Florida, across the street from the yacht club, down the street from the ferry. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a website online?
Oh, good question. Yes.
We do. It's part of Belton's website.
Part of what?
Are we on PDs as well? I think we have a section on PDs as well. So iHeart doesn't have one by itself, but we're on Vallejo's PD website. We're also on Belton's website.
Felton with an F, right? F-E-L-T-O-N? Okay. Is that felton.com?
Yes.
BeltonInstitute.org.
Yes.
BeltonInstitute.org. Okay, so we'll link to that on glencovallejo.com. Okay, good to know. Yes, Supervisor Monica Brown's here. Hi.
So I'm putting my supervisor hat on since I serve with my chair over here on the behavioral health. So where is because every city now has a mobile crisis unit. How do you integrate with the mobile crisis unit in Vallejo?
So oftentimes what will happen is we'll respond to a call that may be a welfare check, potential 5150. Once we engage the individual and understand that a higher level of care is needed, we would just call dispatch and they would call Salama Behavioral Health.
All right, anyone else for iHeart? Thank you so much for coming. But no. Oh, what does it
Good
say?
question. It's Integrated Health and Resource Team. Integrated Health and Resource Team.
speak. Deputy Police Chief, Bobby Knight. Yes, welcome. Oh, we have, I heard information here.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me again this year. I was here last year. I think I had to go after the fire chief, so I'm happy I'm the only one here. So that was outperformed by firefighters. Everyone loves firefighters. But if you can outperform our iHeart program, if you give one round of applause for it. I just want to mention a couple of things to echo on what they talked about. It is a program that we are super, super proud of. We're coming up on our 1-year anniversary of having the program up and running. We had a kickoff in April of last year. But to the point where they kind of closed with, I want to kind of make my pitch to you guys, is that we have been limping this program along with grant funding. As anyone here that knows about grants, is they are not a forever source of funds. We are trying to seek another grant to get some more funding for them to potentially continue for another year or so, but that is not guaranteed. And the grant requirements of managing and reporting are very cumbersome. So there's going to come a time in the near future that we as the police department are going to come to the city council and ask for general funding. As you know, there's a lot of financial challenges in the city of Vallejo, and that will be hard to find that. So there may come a time where I may seek community support for this program, and hopefully you guys haven't kind of heard what they do and maybe educate yourself after this meeting. You know, I may call upon you guys to really, if you so feel the need, to support that. So I just wanted to kind of lay that out there for the future. And then, Ralph asked me to come again this year, and again, like I said, I appreciate that. I just have a few talking points that I thought maybe you guys might find interesting. I have more, but I'm trying to keep my comments somewhat brief and specific to the things I think you might be interested in. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Bob Knight. I'm currently working as the Deputy Chief of Police. I am a native Vallejoan, born and raised here. I've been a part of the police department for 34 years of my life. I started when I was 14 years old as a police explorer, so working in the city of Vallejo. Service to the city is my passion, and you might hear that as I kind of give my spiel, but I really care about this town. There is a lot of officers who have stayed in this department through trials and tribulations, and more than you may imagine, there's a lot of officers here that really, really care about this city. In fact, there's some officers who left not too long ago to other agencies. They came back. So I think that's a testament of the direction that we're going. That's not to say we don't have some significant challenges ahead to grow our police force back, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I want to also introduce your South Service Area Lieutenant, and that is Lieutenant Jeremy Huff in the back of the room. And he will be here and to answer any questions afterwards as well. He'll come up after. I wasn't going to make him stand up here in the middle of my presentation, but he can give you also information as we close about how to contact him directly. So he is in charge of everything, I believe, south of 780 and along the south part of Vallejo. So we created that program because we know it is really hard to get a hold of a police officer and people at the police department at times. So we created a service area lieutenant in charge of each quadrant of the city, and to utilize that as, if nothing else, a point of contact of somebody you can actually get back to. We have really, over the last 2 years or so, really tried to improve our responsiveness to the community. That doesn't mean we can fix your problem or we have the staff to handle anything that may come at us, but it doesn't mean we can't get back to you, okay? And that's something that's very important to me as a leader of this organization, and we want to maintain that commitment. So, first topic I want to talk about, give you guys just a brief summary of where we're at, where we've come, and where we are, and it's a lot of people's favorite topic of abandoned vehicles. We have a local abandoned vehicle expert in the crowd here. You want to raise your hand? I want to say my test of how we're doing is kind of the facial expressions he gives me here. But I want to talk about abandoned vehicles. It's one of the most common complaints we get. It's actually the most common, frequent complaint we get in the city. We know that it's a major problem. As such, under Chief Taw, in October of 24, We designated a full-time police assistant. Some of you may have seen police assistants. They wear the light blue shirts, they're not armed, and they go and they handle nonviolent police calls for service. We took one of those police assistants out of the field, and we dedicated them to the traffic division, and 40 hours a week, sometimes a little bit more, Deb Bernstein goes out, and all she does for her entire shift is handle abandoned vehicles. So just to give you guys kind of a snapshot of where we were and where we are, when Deb started in October of 2024, C-Click Fix had about just under 5,000 vehicles that were pending inspection. Okay, and today, in our last February operations report, the number is now down to 2,300. Okay? So that is really good progress that we've made. We do find that a majority of the cars that she does go to inspect are gone. They're gone. So that does consume some of her time, but that's okay, because that's getting them off the list. So that is some positive progress. I'm sure I'll get some questions at the end about some other things, but I'll be ready to answer. Next big topic that a lot of people seem to be interested in is our staffing. I'm not going to sit here and say that you live in a community that has a fully staffed police department. That's not being honest. We have about 60% of the force and the officers that we are allocated each year. That means that 40% of my police force doesn't exist. That being said, I think we do a pretty darn good job with the resources we do have, but we are trending in the right direction. I always try to put a positive spin on it. We can talk, and I can bring my violin out and play and whine and about all the things that we're not doing, and you're not getting the police service that you do deserve. I acknowledge that. I wave the flag. But I just want to tell you about the things that we are trying to do to improve that. So I want to give you some staffing numbers of where we're at now, but I also want to give you some staffing numbers of where we were last year, at the same period last year. So we currently have allocated 129 officers in the budget. We currently have 77 sworn officers. Okay, we have, of those 77, 4 are injured, not on the streets, they're injured. 2 of those 4 are probably not going to come back. That means a doctor has said, you can't be a police officer anymore, medically your injury is too significant, you're not going to be a police officer. So of those 4, hopefully you get 2 of those back, but 2 we're most likely not going to get back. Of those 77, 41 of those officers are on patrol, in black and white police cars, driving around, going to calls for service, and 4 are in our field training program. So that's 41 officers on patrol. If those 4 officers pass their field training, that would be 45 officers on the patrol division. I want to give you a snapshot. That's not at the number that it should be. 45 is our number. That is the minimum amount of officers on patrol that we've identified as a city that need to provide very minimal basic service. Our optimal number is 60. So we're looking at a number somewhere between 45 and 60. So the fact that we're hovering on 45, it may not mean a lot to you guys. That is very encouraging to me. And I'll give you another number that may put it into perspective. At this same period last year, we were at 29 officers on patrol. Okay, so again, our efforts are making a difference. The officers who we had on the books that were injured and could not be police officers anymore, those started to fall off of the books, and the officers that we sent to the academy got trained. So now we had a flip in our staff. So now we have always had about 77 to 79 officers, but so many of them were injured, and the officers that they didn't do anything for us. They're not full duty officers. So that number has flip-flopped. 77 officers is not the number where it needs to be, but we're making progress. I'm looking at a number before I leave this department. I want to be at 100. Okay, I want to make realistic goals. We also are projecting in our hiring, and we report out every 60 days. The chief of police goes to the city council meeting. He reports out on our progress because we are in a proclaimed state of emergency related to our staffing. We're projecting to net 7 officers per year. So that should put us close to full staffing in about 2029. I'm happy to report that we are ahead of that projection in this first year. So again, I think 7 is achievable. When I say 7 net, that means however many we hire versus how many retire or leave or whatnot. So hiring update for you guys, some good news is we have 2 lateral police officers that are starting this week. They came to us from other police agencies. Those are the best officers to get if you choose the right lateral officers. That means they've already worked for another police department, they're already trained, they've already been to the police academy, and they can start right away. Those are the optimal officers to get. The other type of officers are called recruits. So in those, we have 4 officers in the police academy, and they are slated to graduate at the end of April. And we have 1 that's slated to graduate at the end of May. So that's 5 new officers, and these are very, very, very inexperienced Green officers that go through a 6-month police academy and then go through another 9 to 12-month training, field training program. So those aren't immediate help to us, but that is encouraging the numbers that are coming. We have additionally 12 applicants that are in the process to get hired as officers. That may sound like a really good number. Of that 12, we found over the years, only about a third of those make it through the entire process. So just to give you some perspective. But again, we are projecting that at least 7 per year. And again, this particular year, we are ahead of that projection, which I'm very happy to report. Sideshows, okay? I want to talk a little bit about sideshows and some assistance we're getting in that regard. The CHP in January of this year made a full commitment of their what they call crime suppression unit. That is a unit that goes around into Oakland, Antioch, and now Vallejo and provides extra patrol, visible enforcement patrol, where they're making traffic stops, they're deterring sideshow activity, and I'm happy to report that they have been coming twice per month since January, and they're projected to stay with us at least through the summer, if not longer. That is an extremely significant commitment from the California Highway Patrol to have done that. The results of that have been significant. They keep statistical data on what they do. What's most important to us is every time that they've been here on I think it's an 8-hour shift, 10-hour shift, there's never been a single sideshow in the city of Vallejo. So that shows that extra patrol, more uniformed officers do deter sideshow activity. So that is something that we're really happy about in terms of their commitment to us. That's good. We've also looked at some other avenues to also deter sideshows, which is creating some type of county task force to do that. One of the problems or challenges with that is we are probably the highest volume sideshow city in the county. So officers from Fairfield, Vacaville, they would have to justify with their city government to send 2 or 3 officers down to Vallejo. That might be a tough sell. You know, Chief Todd continues to negotiate with the other chiefs of police in the county to try to create some type of task force. 2 other things, and this is the topic I was going to talk about, which is about gun violence. Gun violence is a very significant problem in our city. Now, it may not be a significant problem in Glen Cove, but the things that happen in the crime, especially violent crime around the city, affects all of us. And I wanted to talk about some things that we've done to address gun violence most recently. Some of you hopefully may have seen that we held a press conference very recently with our federal partners, that there was a lot of really good police work and a lot of really bad people that were taken off the street through some of those operations. If you didn't hear, we held a press conference recently, and FBI and ATF highlighted some very recent, months and months long cases that they had engaged in. First, the ATF did an operation that targeted the Super 8 Hotel on Solano Avenue, right there near Taco Bell and the new Jack Anthony's Car Wash. That was a hotbed for crime and drug activity, and most importantly, gun violence. Through multiple months of undercover operations, they purchased multiple very dangerous and illegal firearms from suspects within that hotel. And then they held an operation last month that netted 4 federal indictments and seizing 5 guns. That had a very significant impact on just that small little area that was really, really plagued with crime. So we're really happy to have the ATF report on that activity. And then finally, the FBI. They were targeting a gang, a Sereno blue gang in Vallejo called BPH, the Brown Brotherhood. That is a gang that's been in the city of Vallejo for many, many decades. They did a targeted operation that lasted multiple months, and it resulted in 4 federal indictments and 8 state charge arrests. So 4 and 4. 4 federal indictments, 4 state charge arrests, so 8 total arrests, 31 firearms seized during the takedowns, 23 pounds of methamphetamine, 110,000, that's right, 110,000 fentanyl pills, a kilo of cocaine, and $172,000 in cash of drug proceeds. That had a significant impact on the the areas where those individuals had as gang strongholds. That was Sacramento Street, Arkansas Street, Sonoma Boulevard, and places like that. We really think that it's going to have a strong impact on those communities and Vallejo in general. Those people, when you have 31 firearms that you're having, those people are committing armed robberies all throughout our city, probably all throughout the Bay Area. They're engaged in thefts, firearms assaults. Those are things that I feel are very impactful to all Vallejoans. And then finally, I just want to wrap by talking about a really, really good program that I'm excited about. It's a gun violence reduction initiative called Vallejo Vision. One of the aspects that I learned about having some type of program like this is you have to have a really good acronym. So we came up with this acronym of VISION. VISION stands for Violence, Intervention, Support, Improving Our Neighborhoods. I'm pretty proud of that. We worked with some city council members to come up with that, and on a site visit trip that we had to a similar program in Aurora, Colorado, where we traveled to see what they're doing. And we looked at a bunch of different programs throughout the nation. Boston, Oakland, California, Kansas City, Missouri, Tampa, Florida. A lot of people are doing similar things. We took what we thought was all of the best features from all of those different programs and made a hybrid program that was very, very scaled down for Vallejo. And we've created Vallejo Vision. What it is a shared approach to public safety. It involves a lot of things. The overview is it involves county, state, and federal law enforcement partners, and a strong network of community services and support, community organizations, nonprofits, things like that. What we do is this program identifies the members of our community who are at the highest risk of committing gun violence. We call them trigger pullers. Okay? We also identify those that are at the highest risk of being victims of gun violence. Those people are sometimes future trigger pullers. Once we've identified those folks, they become Vallejo Vision candidates. Once they become candidates of our program, we meet with them personally, whether it be at their home, whether it be at another agreed upon location, and they're put on notice that they are a person who is hurting people in our community. They are committing violence. We either suspect they're going to commit violence or they have committed violence, and they're put on notice. Then, and this is the most important part, those people are immediately funneled into our services and support and our community partners that go and try to change their life. We're really asking these folks to turn their life around and get out of that lifestyle of violence. And that's involving several people that are spearheaded by the Vallejo CVI. CVI stands for Community Violence Intervention Network. So the Vallejo CVI network, run by Dr. Dion Carter. We have the Vallejo Center for Urban Excellence. The folks there are doing such great work and have so many contacts with so many resources that we really think and we hope that it's going to impact these people's lives. But if it doesn't, Vallejo Vision has a component that has a very strong accountability component. Because we have so many law enforcement partners that are involved, if the person reoffends or they're caught with a illegal firearm, and they have already been put on notice, they already have been offered these services and support, they hurt someone in our community or they get caught with a weapon, they're going to be held accountable by the Solano District Attorney, the United States Attorney's Office, and they're going to get zero tolerance prosecution. Now that doesn't mean that's where Vallejo Vision stops. What our vision is in Vallejo and the Vallejo PD is we can then offer those services and support to those folks' family. They now may have an incarcerated son or daughter. They may have siblings that are now impacted by someone who's now being incarcerated or federally prosecuted. So those are significant things to a family. We want to funnel that services and support to those folks too. So that's Vallejo Vision in a nutshell. It's something we're very, very proud of. And that's kind of what some of the high-level talking points I wanted to talk to you guys about. And I'm sure there'll be lots of questions.
Yeah, sure. Anybody want to go first?
I think you gave us everything we need to know.
I figured I'd give you guys lots of information and no questions. Here we go.
You're right, I have been obsessed for almost 6 years now about the abandoned cargo. I've been asking every day I could go to meetings like you so I can corner guys like you. So I'm really pleased with, like, in the month of November, 1,000 reports were taken care of. I'm sure 90% of them are GOA, gone on arrival. Once they get caught up, it'll be great. I mean, But there is one little thing. If, like the guy across the street from me literally now has had a car that hasn't moved for 6 months. And I know if I report it, C-Click Fix is gonna say, no, it's not abandoned, that's registered to the guy that lives right there. So nothing's ever gonna happen. And a guy around the corner had his vehicle there for 5 years. Finally moved it, I'm not sure why. And that's one little fly in the ointment of C-Click Fix.
Yeah, so just the legal aspect is if you have a neighbor that's in your neighborhood that parks a car, the legal requirement, and Lieutenant Traffic Guru, Lieutenant Huff, tell me if I'm wrong, but they have to just move 1 mile every 72 hours. So in theory, a person could game the system by, if their vehicle wasn't operative, we could put a red tag on that car, but if that person just drove that car 1 mile, they could leave there for another 72 hours. They could do that over and over. We probably realistically don't have the time to go back to that person's car every 72 hours to kind of play that game. What we're really targeting is those vehicles oftentimes are inoperative, or inoperable, sorry. So that is kind of the vehicles that we're looking for. But we do have those occasional ones where we do slap the sticker on. The sticker's really hard to get off, by the way. We do slap the sticker on, and people just move their car. We do note that as kind of a win as well, that if they're willing to kind of move their car, and so be it. We've been working recently, we've getting a lot more complaints about possible residential car repair, almost quasi-car repair places in people's garage. That is code enforcement's realm more, so we've been working with them to kind of tag team if there's some abandoned vehicles out front, but then there's also some car repair stuff going on inside. They look into that type of thing. So I'm happy to answer any more questions, but I do want to pass it over to Lieutenant Huff so he can tell you guys. Oh, go ahead.
I know you mentioned the highway patrol company. Well, what about the county sheriff's company and support also?
Thank you. So I got a little note with an asterisk here to tell you guys about, and that's something I forgot. I apologize. So our discussions with the Solano County Sheriff to provide for about a year of supplemental police service to portions of Vallejo is still ongoing. I know Mayor may mention that when she comes up and speaks, but those negotiations are ongoing. We're committed to seeing that through to fruition and wherever that may end up going. But I wanted to bring up, and thank you for reminding me, the residents of Glen Cove. What the model is right now, if it stays that way with the Solano Sheriff, is for that year period that we are contracting police service with them, we would essentially cut the city in half. So half of the city would be, for a 12-hour period, would be serviced by the Solano Sheriff, and the other half of the city would be by the Vallejo Police Department. So in theory, we should get just about twice as much of the level of service during that 12-hour period from about noon to midnight. That's when we get the highest frequency of calls. That's when we have sideshows, etc. They would be handling beats 1, 2, 3, and 4. You guys in Glen Cove are beat 3. So your residential area, beat 3, if you call the police for some type of call for service during that 12-hour period, if this works out, a Solano Sheriff's deputy would show up. Probably 2 deputies would show up to take your call for service. For me, I'm a Vallejo police officer, right? I care about Vallejo. I want Vallejo police officers to go to Vallejo residents' home and provide them police service. But it's not okay for Vallejo residents to not get the police service they deserve. So, a Solano Sheriff, for a period of time, while we can continue to build our department back, I can get behind that. Because when people call for the police, you should get a police officer or a deputy. Okay, so that's not something that I'm opposed to. It's not optimal, but we are working in non-optimal circumstances at the moment as we build back. Building back the police department is no small feat. I'll tell you that. You slide down real quickly, but to claw your way back up takes hard work, dedication, and years of hard work. So thank you for reminding me. I just did want to alert the Glen Cove members that they would be getting Solano County Sheriff service, and there may be some questions related to that. One thing that I thought of before I pass it over to Lieutenant Huff so he can tell you how to get a hold of him is another good thing we did in January is we created, we brought back a very important position that we used to have, and it's called a Community Engagement Sergeant. That's Sergeant Hollis. Some of you may have seen if you follow our social media. Sergeant Hollis is a public information officer. He was previously working in patrol as a patrol sergeant and doing the PIO duties on the side. Now he is our full-time community engagement sergeant. So some of you might start seeing him a lot more often. He is going to revitalize our neighborhood watch program, which went dormant for quite a while. He's going to go and coordinate all of our community events, and he's going to be doing a ton of things for the city that we previously had no one to do. So a lot of the things we used to do very well and very right are going to be coming back, and that's because of our community engagement.
Yeah, he has spoken to her for us.
Yeah.
We have a question over here first, but let me tell you
how
for let people know how to get hold of you.
Yeah, it's a very simple email. It's south, lieutenant @cityofvallejo.net. It goes to the South Sector lieutenant, which currently is me. I'm in charge of East 3, which is the Glencoe area, and then everything south of Georgia Street over to the water. I'm also in charge of the traffic division, so abandoned autos is actually one of the other things that I oversee. Senior PA Bernstein is making great strides and chipping away at the list. With regards to neighbor vehicles, we really do try to stick to the abandoned things. But even neighbors' vehicles still need to be registered, they still need to run. Back when I started as a cadet in 2001, most of the odometers on vehicles were rolling, so I could actually take note of the odometer and come back in 3 days and see if it had really moved. Nowadays, basically everything is digital. We have to paint the tire, chalk the tire. They wipe it off. They scoot it 10 feet one way or another. We don't have any idea or any proof that it went around the block or not. But they do still have to be registered. In order to save PA Bernstein time, if the vehicle's registered or unregistered in the next 6 months, she just tows it then. She generally won't tag it and come back, because I would rather her take care of it in one trip rather than multiple trips and just move to a driveway or a few doors up. So.
Oh, you have a question here.
I just want to say I'm so happy we don't have as many sideshows. In fact, the other day I was actually thinking, I haven't heard one in a while. I have a more fine code question, which might be directed to you, but we have motorcycle riders up on our Ridge Trail and kind of going around in areas that are not meant for motorcycles. And obviously, we're not going to have a police officer sitting around waiting until somebody shows up. Is there a way we can call or do something when they're out there? Because the other day there was a guy driving around for like 45 minutes, and I'm walking my dog. It's just not a great scene. So I'm just curious if there's some way we can deal with that on a base at that moment.
Sure. So, Ralph just brought this to our attention last night at our community Chiefs Advisory Board meeting. These electric bikes and different, kind of electric,
Gas.
Okay, gas motorcycles. Okay, so dirt bikes. A lot of them are also electric. This is becoming a really big problem. So it got brought to our attention last night. What we're doing now is we're trying to determine jurisdiction of who is actually the jurisdiction of that. Possibly get some environmental design things to kind of block off those areas. I know that there was apparently a truck that just knocked over some fencing and things like that. We just need to find out who that property belongs to. If it's the city of Vallejo, we can get on that 100%. We can kind of tag team with some ideas of how to shore up that area. Because if that is city property, then that would not be something that's legal. If it's private property, we can also get on the property owner to say, hey, these vehicles are being loud on your property. You need to either fix it, do something about it, get some environmental design aspects that stop it, and our city attorney's office can do that. So thank you for bringing that. We did just get it brought to our attention last night.
Hi, I wanted to thank you for shutting down that motel problem. My question is, can we eminent domain some of these hotels that have this criminal activity going on and just get them off of Highway 80?
Yeah, possibly. That's quite a large legal endeavor to take on. The city attorney's office has a program called NLP, the Neighborhood Law Program. They do what you're talking about, but more in a residential area. If there's a private residential property, They will take potential legal action. They'll get the residents in the neighborhood to come together and possibly take legal action on that residence. The same could apply to a business. It's a little bit tougher. But yes, that is something that could happen. That's not necessarily our world, but we do generate arrests. We do identify criminal activity where that could occur. Holding businesses, especially businesses like that do become a hotbed for criminal activity. Sometimes our smoke shops. Some of our smoke shops are very adhering to all the rules. Some are not. So when holding businesses accountable, there's a collaboration between code enforcement, the police department, the city attorney's office, and things like that. So that's a good idea. That would be something I think we could entertain. Just have to look into the legal license. Thank you.
Yeah.
Before you mention.
Good day. About 2 months ago, I was on my Ring app, and I was talking to a lot of the neighbors around in Grand Cove, and one of them brought up, "Do you guys hear all the sideshows going on here?" Finally hit Grand Cove. We've never had it here before. And another person that got on says, "Hey, the noise is gone." And then somebody else got on the app and says, "Hey, they're here over here at Columbus Parkway now." Within 2 hours' time, they had moved from Glen Cove all the way down to the marina. Is it possible for the police department to tap into the Ring app and hear everybody talk and get a general idea, hey, this is where they're headed, or they're here now, and give you guys heads up, opposed to somebody calling in, waiting on the line, putting us on hold? I think it would benefit you guys listening to the Ring app, because everybody's following now. Everybody's complaining, gunshots. Hey, did you guys hear the gunshot just a minute ago? I'm located over here on Rolling Wood and Springs Road. Just heard several gunshots fired. And everybody responds to it. And I respond to it too. I go, good. Everyone talk. Where are they at now? Maybe the police force will tap into that. So is it possible for them to tap into the Ring app?
That's a really good question. And one of the things that I keyed in on what you're saying is communication is key. But what I will tell you is, and let me give you some context for numbers. Don't hold me to this exact numbers, but we just reported to a grand jury request about sideshows in Vallejo. I think we had in 2023 86 sideshows for that year, and in 2024 we had 324. So just kind of, I just want to give you some context in terms of the numbers we're dealing with. But to your point, what I want to tell you is where the sideshows are occurring and us knowing about it, that's not really our problem, because the amount of people that do call us, we know where those sideshows are occurring. What happens is when all of our officers on patrol are tied up on a critical event, like a shooting, a stabbing, and it consumes all of our resources, these sideshows take hold, and there is 200, 300 people, spectators, vehicles, and then it gets up to a point where it's beyond just the officers in Vallejo's control. We have to call for mutual aid. We have to call for multiple units to come in and systematically shut that sideshow down. That is the point we don't want it to get to. So that's our challenge. When the CHP has been here, that's never happened. There's never officers that aren't available to go to these particular areas. I'll give you an example. There was a sideshow brewing, and where they mostly start at is Sonoma Boulevard and Lemon Street. There was about 25 cars. They were all starting to brew, starting to show up, or there was a sideshow going to happen. They flooded the area with 6 CHP cars, and they all left. And they left the city. They didn't come back. These sideshows are very mobile, to your point. They're very mobile. So once we get officers that can come in, move them along, and then we get them on the move, then they go to the next location. They start to set up. We get officers there. They disperse. They go to the next location. As long as they can't create a stronghold, that's when we're doing okay. But it's when we let this problem fester. What the definition truly of a sideshow is, it's not just multiple cars spinning donuts. Sideshow is when they really take over the street. They block the streets off. I mean, these folks will bring in almost like a NASCAR race, like a pit area where they have extra tires, they have car jacks, and they jack the cars up, switch the tires off, and put them back into the sideshow. Those are sideshows that happen when we do not have any officers to respond, and they last an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. So I like your idea of communication. I do love hearing the communication amongst the neighbors and the community. But those people are calling us. We know the sideshows where they're occurring. We know to what levels they're swelling to. And it's on that lieutenant, watch commander, or patrol sergeant to go, okay, guys, I need you to free up from this call. I need you guys to leave this call. I need to get enough officers out to this location to disperse the sideshow before it gets too large. So that's kind of just the dynamics of the sideshows. I think a lot of people don't realize is as long as when we're keeping them on the move and they're here, they're on Columbus Parkway, they're in Glen Cove, they're here, they're there. That's when we got them on the run and we're doing okay. It does last a couple of hours still, but eventually they leave the city. Is that right? So they eventually leave the city and they go to another Bay Area city and start to do the same thing. So thank you.
Any other questions for? I saw this one first.
Do we have them because we have easy access out of here to go to a lot of different counties? Is that why we lay it, or is it because we have a small police force and they know they can get away with it?
They're occurring all throughout the Bay Area. This is, they call it sideshow culture. This is happening all throughout the Bay Area. We just happen to be a popular spot for it. And if it's somewhere where they can take a stronghold and they can do it for hours and hours and hours, those are the places they're going to migrate the most. I will say, again, I'm not on wood, I don't want to get ahead of our skis here, but since the CHP has been here, there has been a change in the reputation of Vallejo that the CHP is here, the Vallejo Police is here, they're not going to allow us to do sideshows here. So I want to kind of capitalize on that momentum and that perception, even if it's kind of a build-up perception on social media. I don't care, I'll take it. We want to keep that push to say we're not going to have that here. So having the CHP here on varied days, so the sideshow participants never know when they're going to be here, that's, I think, working to our advantage.
Because they're mobile, are there state or just local criminal codes that when these guys get arrested, how do they get prosecuted?
Both. So there's really strong, stringent state vehicle code laws that just were, actually the penalties were just increased by Governor Newsom. We also, unlike some cities, we do have two very strong city ordinances that make it illegal to participate in sideshows, but also to spectate at sideshows. The problem with enforcement is when they get to the point where they are swelled up to multiple 200, 300 vehicles and people, these folks that are participating in these sideshows are very, very hostile to the police. So it's not, I just want to really, if you've ever seen one or been around one, it's scary. And you have hundreds and hundreds of people that are really looking for a police officer to pull their car in so they can surround it, jump on top of it, break the windows out. Then it becomes not just a, hey, I'm going to give you a ticket for spectating. It becomes really a safety issue. And you mentioned firearms, the amount of firearms that are there at these scenes. So we need to start to reimagine how we take these on, because people oftentimes say, why don't you just block them all in? Just block them all in, and then just start giving people tickets. And it's not that type of party, folks. It's not. It's a very dangerous aspect of this. That's not to say we can't do it. Generally, and again, I'll let you chime in here, Lieutenant Huff, if you want. Generally, what we'll do is when we start getting the people on the run, then we can start picking people off. We can start picking off cars and stopping a carload of 4 or 5 people. You cite them for spectating, you cite them for participation, and you get them when the group is already spread apart. That's the strategy that we found is the best. And then finally, the CHP, with the CHP help comes the CHP area unit help. What we've also found has been very helpful is when there's a sideshow going on, that CHP airplane or helicopter can identify a vehicle or two. Once we break up the sideshow, they'll follow that car who's doing the most sideshow activity. We can stop that car miles and miles later at a gas station and cite those folks as well. That's also a very good strategy that we found, because I don't want to put the officers into a dangerous situation where we have a critical event or an officer-involved shooting occurred because we're trying to give somebody a ticket for participating in a sideshow. I would like to do it when it's a little bit safer. So those are just some strategies that we employ.
All right.
Yeah.
It's coming around. I want to know about drones. We live along the waterway.
We live along the waterway, and there's drones flying over the Cartoon Straits. One just comes riding into our backyard, and they looking in our window.
Wow.
What do I do about drones?
So drone usage is governed by the FAA, just like airplanes. The problem with the FAA is they govern airplanes, but now they have millions of drones that are out there. And people are supposed to follow the rules. They're supposed to get a pilot's license. They're supposed to notify certain people when they do flights, drone flights. It's like they treat it like a quasi small aircraft. And bottom line is people just don't do that. They don't do that. So, if a drone is intruding on your property, if it's on your property, you can take it off of your property. I mean, it's not something you can't do. When it invades people's privacy, those ones are very challenging for us because it's hard to identify who that drone belongs to. And you don't know who that person is, you don't see it. So that would be something, though, that I would always tell people to report it to the police. I used to tell my mom the same thing. She said, "Oh, I'm not going to call because they're too busy." Again, I want to reiterate to you folks, it may take us 5 minutes, it may take us 5 hours, or 5 days to respond. Please, always report the criminal activity in the neighborhood, please.
That also goes for online too, right? Because I've been encouraging people, even if they feel they'll never get answered, document and make sure it's filed on every incident.
We have had to increase our online reporting just because of the few number of officers that we do have. If we don't have an identifiable suspect, oftentimes we will refer people to online reporting. But if you don't call, you're not going to get that referral, or you can do it online. But that might be something we want to respond to, and you might be able to provide a piece of information that you didn't know was valuable to something we already are working on. Sometimes people say, call us and say, "I think I heard somebody in my backyard. Maybe it's no big deal." And you may not know that we were chasing somebody 3 blocks away, and now you may have identified where the suspect was running from us, and you might think it was something innocuous. So online reporting, and please, 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 always call the police department. Again, I cannot guarantee a timely response, always, but if you don't call, we don't know about it, and we can't track and document it, and we can't get officers out there.
All right.
I know there are certain kind of cars that do these sideshows. I've been kind of watching out, and I've seen the sideshows too. And somebody who's been in a sideshow, if the corners of their cars are smashed, like the quarter panel in the back, the front corner of the light, that's from them going around in circles. Of course, they're banging into other people. Around the corner from me, I have several cars in a driveway, and they keep them coming. And these are the type of cars that I see in the sideshow. Can these cars be reported? Can I take down the license plate number, turn it over to you guys, and say, can this be investigated? There's like 4 or 5 of those cars in the driveway, and they're all covered. And they're the types that do the sideshow. And I've gone by there a couple times. I opened the canvas, and I can see how the wear and tear is on the tires, and they've been doing it. So I'm just wondering, can we do something with that?
So if you think that there's a car that you suspect is involved in sideshow activity, you can report that online, and we will have that. But we really try to focus our enforcement efforts on cars that are engaged in sideshow activity. Another thing that's on the horizon is we're hoping, with those staffing projections that I was telling you about, in summer we want to create a POP team. So that could be about a 4-officer team that will be able to go out and do a variety of crime-fighting activities. One of those is focusing on sideshows. What we can do is when we have identified a vehicle that actually engaged in sideshow activity, you can go to a judge and write what's called a seizure warrant. You go and write a seizure warrant, and then you get a warrant to go seize that person's car, whether it's on their private property, public property, whatever, and that gets seized for a substantial period of time, and it's a substantial amount of money to get it back. So I intend to use those POP officers to engage in some sideshow enforcement and some sideshow seizures. That would not hurt to get that intelligence if we were able to correlate a vehicle that you suspected was involved in sideshows, and then when we find it actually involved in sideshows, that would be helpful information. So that's something on the horizon that we're hoping to get up and running in summertime.
Great, thank you. If there aren't any other burning questions, we thank you both for being here. And we will put before a little more housekeeping. So we do have a membership table over there with really cool magnets. That's actually how I found out about this organization. I also didn't want to forget to introduce Neil Zimmerman, one of our representatives, who was my immediate predecessor as president of Glen Cove. And of course, our mayor actually didn't make it, so hopefully she'll get up and speak pretty soon. But right now, I want to have Christine give a presentation about this new neighborhood that's proposed off of Robles. I call it Robles. I hear a lot of people say Robles. But anyway, Christine has some information about that.
I usually don't need a microphone. Do I need a microphone?
We're Facebook Live, so for perpetuity, right?
Okay, I'll use a microphone. So I'm Christine Gibson. I'm a representative for the Glen Cove Hills community. That's, as I refer to it, over by Safeway. I live on Wildflower Avenue, and there is approximately 20 acres that is below Wildflower Avenue and bordering the Venetia State Recreation Area. That is privately owned land and is under proposal for development. And the current proposal is 51 single-family homes, ranging from 2,000 to 2,400 square feet, all two-story, 4 bedroom maybe, 2, 3 bedroom maybe. The developer, we learned about it in the neighborhood a couple years ago when we saw folks on the land doing drilling and soil testing. And that's how I actually got involved with the Glen Cove Community Association. I moved into the neighborhood in 2020 and thought I'd found paradise. I'm a Bay Area native. My family's been in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, Oakland, for 4 generations. And I lived in Oakland and I came up to Glen Cove and I thought, wow, I can live near nature again. And it was just a remarkable moment in my life. And so the idea of losing that to houses that kind of look like what's happening over on the other side of the Columbus Parkway is not comforting to me. But it is privately owned land, and we have the right to develop it, and we have the right to have our voice heard. So what I wanted to share with you guys tonight and let you know is going on is the Sansera is a development company out of Southern California. They're a capital group. They're the money people. They're not the builders. They develop properties. They've done a number of developments in Southern California, Huntington Beach, etc. And they're pretty. They're nice. They're well done. So they're not low profile. They're good looking. And Sansera came up, a few of us in the neighborhood received postcards back in early January that the company was going to have a listening session in 2 nights at the end of January. And so postcards went out to a few people because they're only legally required to notify people within a couple hundred yards of the development area. And then the neighborhood got up in arms and told everybody else that it was happening. So they had a good turnout. And I was on a business trip, and I made it back in time to talk to them. And I have been communicating with one of their partners. His name is Adam Smith. He was invited to join us here tonight, but they are at a hearing in Southern California about some property development down there. They are going to join the Glen Cove Community Association for our Zoom board meeting next week. We meet once a month on Thursdays. So my objective is to present them with the questions that have already been gathered. That's why I have my laptop in front of me. As well as get some more input from you guys tonight about your questions and concerns. In the meantime, the city planning office, the person who's in charge of the city planning is a gentleman named Cesar Orozco. And he sent a letter out to most of the people in the surrounding area that there is a preliminary environmental review hearing on April 10th at 5:30 p.m. at the JFK Library. That is a 1-hour meeting, and the public is invited to attend. But it's mostly a meeting because the EIR, which stands for Environmental Impact Review, has not been completed yet. It's mostly preliminary information with other public and private agencies in the area, so like the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, water people, etc. They have the ability to weigh in or express their concerns or support for the plan at that point. And then Cesar says that the actual environmental impact review, which according to everything I could figure out with the city of Vallejo, was contracted about 1.5 years ago, and should be done in June. And when that's done, there will be another public hearing where people can have their input and heard, etc. So if is anybody unfamiliar with the location? I can describe it better if not. Okay, great. So the concerns that have been vocalized so far, traffic. Of course. Everything's gonna come off the parkway, onto Robles, down Shady. Is the only entrance and or exit that can be built. They cannot access the property anywhere else. So that means upwards of 100 cars a day in and out of the neighborhood through Robles and Shady. Not okay. And I have this lovely binder here, which is all of the documentation that neighbors have given me about a similar effort that took place in 1990, 35 years ago. Somebody tried to develop this land, and they were trying to put 79 houses on it. And that got shut down by the city of Vallejo before it even went to environmental impact review because of the public voices, because of the community concern, and how many people said, not here, not now. It's, and nobody in this room is going to tell you we don't need housing. Nobody in this room is going to tell you we don't have a housing crisis in America. But when and where to solve it is something we need to think about closely. This property is going to be 100% car restricted. You're not going to be able to live there unless you own a vehicle to come and go. You're not going to be able to live there unless you have the means to buy. The developer said they're going to put on the market in the 600s. We all know that that's not going to fly because that's not what it's going to cost to build a house these days. So we'll see what happens there. So traffic is a major concern. If you've been down Shady where it hits Robles, it starts as a double wide street, it ends as a single wide street. I asked the developer, are you going to be able to widen the street? Their answer was no, but that's not the answer for the developer, that's the answer for the city. Oh, thank you very much.
Where's that?
Perfect.
So here's Safeway, right here.
Yep.
You do Safeway to Sandy, and then Sandy's gonna become the.
Shady.
Shady.
Yeah.
And then that's gonna be the entrance to the property, and the property goes down, I don't know how far down.
It's gonna, and I've got some maps I can share if you can stop by and talk to me afterwards. If you look at the end of Wild, right there, it's gonna stop right about there. So the 51 houses are only gonna go into about 9, maybe 10 of the acres. The other acreage is really, really sloped, and they're not gonna develop that. Yes? It's, that's a good question. I think Sansera bought it. I think they own it right now. It's privately owned. It has been privately owned. And if anybody else who's in the room who's been in the neighborhood longer than me, it's always been privately owned. So there was an effort in 2000, a number of the community members in what our area is called Glen Cove 2, got together to see if a environmental agency or a conservation agency or the state parks was interested in buying the land, and there wasn't any interest in it. The project kind of died on the vine.
So it goes right up to Benicia State Park.
Correct. So there is what's called a buffer between the boundary of the state park and the privately owned land. It's about 30 feet wide. So I've written the state park 3 times. They've not answered, but are aware of the developments.
Back in the 1990s, had they replied though? I thought there was a statement by them in the 1990s.
Yes.
Against the development.
Yeah, so the 90s, there are statements from Bay Area Air Quality, Bay Area Water Management, State Park, Solano Land Conservation. All those organizations wrote letters saying that they said this was not a good idea. So we're hoping to get their input again in this cycle.
So what has changed?
That's exactly my question. It's a different owner. That's what's changed. Somebody else owns the land and they're going to try again.
I was here in 1990 in this room when all of these concerns were heard before.
Yeah.
And it had been 10 years previous to that, another attempt.
Sure.
Anyway, so yeah, the traffic from the freeway, up Robles, down Shady, the road can't support it anymore. It just can't support any more traffic. Nor upkeep for the pavement. It's rutted now.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, Shady was recently repaved. It had what's called a slurry seal. It was on the city's project list. I went back and I looked through the last 3 years. It had been slated for slurry seal for a couple of years. So it wasn't the development company. But there is a rumor that the development company had something to do with getting it to the top of the list. I don't know.
We have a question here.
Oh, so you're
you're right about all the cars, but I'm thinking every nut, every bolt, every nail, I just picture these huge trucks. I'm in that neighborhood.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the primary concerns that we have in general as a neighborhood is how long is the construction going to take? How many years are we going to be navigating around backhoes and big haulers? And you all know when they put that stuff across Columbus Parkway, they did not start at 8 a.m. and quit at 5 p.m. They were up there at 7 a.m. I look at that hill every day. They did not abide to construction hours, and I doubt these people would too. So,
Christine's not passionate about this.
but I am being really nice. I'm in touch with Caesar at the city. I've been in touch with James Olson from the LMD district, trying to find out about whether or not. So the community would be an HOA community. So not everybody in Glencoe's in an HOA. I'm not. I bought my house because it isn't. So, but they would be in an HOA. They would have very attractive landscaping 30 years from now when it's all built up. One of the questions too is a lot of us who live on Wildflower, our backyards have quite a bit of land that are part of landscaping district easement. We cannot improve them. We cannot fence them. So that means that our property will be exposed to foot traffic, animals, residential pets, etc. So we're doing a lot of discovery right now about what is going on and what's happening. There's just a lot of unknown. There's just a lot of unknown without that environmental impact review in, because it also includes traffic, air quality, noise, and so we don't know all those details yet.
Aren't they going to have to cut into the back of your house? I mean, the back
No.
of the property? No.
Yeah, so the development respects the existing lot lines. There will be no infringement on existing property lines.
No, not your property line.
But does it include these?
I'm talking about the property that's behind your property line. The hill.
Oh, the hill is my land.
Oh, it is?
Yes, we own, so most of us on Wildflower own a good, technically, we own the physical land, but it is an easement to the city of Vallejo to allow them to maintain the landscape maintenance
So
district.
they're not going to cut into that?
No.
Do you know if the environmental review includes the impact that it's going to have on the wild
Yes.
refuge?
So I have been in touch with, so one of the things that has to be studied is wildlife. What kind of critters, what kind of migratory animals, what kind of full-time residents. I've been in touch with Audubon Society of Mount Diablo, waiting to hear back. But it is one of the things that the environmental impact review has to touch on and include details on.
We have a question out here.
If the old projects were denied with the same reason that you have, why can't Vallejo say, somebody have tried this before, it's a no, it's documented.
It's privately owned land. It's a different project with a different footprint and a different number of houses. That's how they're getting through.
It is fewer houses.
Yeah, so the original, what I read in 1990, and those of you who were around, the original proposal in 1990 was in the mid-80s on houses, and they backed it down into the 70s, I think. I don't have the numbers memorized. 101. So what I did learn when I first got panicked about this is that land, so those of us who live in Glencoe too, we're in what's called a low density residential, LDR. That means you can only have so many houses per acre. I forget. That land is zoned medium density residential. That land could accommodate 300 living units based on the city of Vallejo's zoning laws. How it got zoned at MDR, nobody knows. We're looking into that. I'm trying to do some research and figure that out. So it's just incongruous with the feel of the community.
There a question here. Christine, having lived in the area since '83, I also have the same concerns. I've been around for every one of those fights and been participating in that process. And I realized, it being privately owned, that it's not unreasonable for a development to come in. Some of what my feelings are that why not have a smaller project? It mimic our area, which is a terraced development, meaning one row of streets, and perhaps single-story homes, so that it doesn't infringe on views from the people that live on Wildflower, as well as potentially a project for 55 and older, so that we get more of the component of the residents of Canada there, who are typically seniors and not using their cars so much, taking advantage of walking and other activity in the area.
Absolutely, and those are questions. Thank you for sharing those with me earlier. This is an item been in touch. And just real quick, if you want to give me your questions, you can. My email address is on the Vallejo Code community website, so feel free. The other thing is, write Cesar Orozco at the City of Vallejo. Tell him the more voices that are heard, the better chance we have. The more people who reach out, the better we'll be heard. I also was contacted by Adam Smith from Sansera today, and they have a website up now. It's vista-cove.com. Real simple. It's very simple. It's just got the layout, but the last page that it scrolls through lets you offer your opinion about whether you're supportive or not supportive. So
We have another question.
Just a quick question. So hypothetically, if it is approved and they're able to move forward, my concern not only is the traffic, but I'm also concerned about the construction crew coming through, the tractors, etc. And how many years are they projecting? I thought it was 4 years, but then also the time frame of when they start working on the homes. Sometimes, because I work on a construction site, sometimes they start at 6 o'clock in the morning. Not till 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, which can impact people that are already retired. How do we listen to that?
Absolutely, that's definitely one of the concerns that has been raised by a number of different people. I can't answer those questions right now, but I can add them to the list of concerns for the city, because that would be on the city, more so because they regulate the hours that they're legally allowed to be on the property, and then if they operate outside those hours, we get to complain, lucky us.
So Christine can be contacted, as all our representatives can be, through the contact page at glencovallejo.com. Encourage you to go there. We have people who work on the site, we update it, all these updates are there. Information on, oh, by the way, we are open for registration for the garage sale already, and we have people signed up, so that's another thing you can do. If you email us, but is there any other specific contact information you want to?
Just the Sansera website, the City of Vallejo, email me with concerns. We'll work on getting our voices together and make sure that I'll let people know if you want to email me. I'll let you know if we hear from the city about when the next public hearing will be. Also, if you write Cesar, he'll put you on the list and they're legally obligated.
She'll be glad to give you his email.
No problem.
And he's a city employee, yeah. So thank you so much for staying. From the food co-op talk for a few minutes, particularly because we lost another supermarket here in Vallejo. Some of you may know that the supermarket on Admiral Callahan is shut down, and I think Isidra and David will have something to say about that.
Good evening. I had a 30-minute presentation, but I'm going to cut it down to 5. I'm just going to say that we belong to Cultivate Community Food Co-op. I'm the vice president of the board of directors. We've been doing this. We've been trying to get this store off the ground since 2017. COVID really bit us when we were doing that because the ownership has slowed down, but we're starting to build it up. This last year, our volunteer group, our outreach teams are starting to make some serious progress and inroads to doing more events, to get more information out there for everybody to go, to understand about what the food co-op is about. But what we're trying to accomplish here in the city of Vallejo and the Benicia area is we're trying to build a thriving, full-service natural grocery store owned by the people, the owners. It wouldn't be a big box store or things like that. It wouldn't be a worker-owned grocery store or that kind of thing. Our vision is to promote our local food system, strengthen our economy, build the community, and care for the environment. That's basically our vision. our values, all we focus about community, accountability, responsibility, and sustainability. That's our kind of our mantra. That's where our core values are for this operation. We've been, like I said, we've been at this in 2017. We have currently about 580 owners. That means we're about halfway to our goal of 1,200. 1,200 owners gets the doors open. What that means is that it shows investors, it shows people who are going to invest money into this store that they can see that we are going to have an actual usage of this property that's actually going to be sustainable over the period of time. We've been doing, once we get up to 800 owners, we'll start doing the feasibility study. We're going to be launching our capital campaigns, and we're also going to be searching for a general manager. So when those kind of things start happening, the ball starts going and rolling pretty quick. And the reasoning behind this food co-op, the idea is that when the president of the board, Paul Schnese, came in back in 2017, she noticed that there was very limited food choices here in this area. Matter of fact, even according to the federal government, Vallejo is a food desert. So we have to we're looking for opportunities to bring a sustainable product to the Big Bay area and make sure that we have it owned by the people and have a say. So as an owner, you have a say about how the food co-op operates, what products goes on the shelf, how we treat the community, and also is that where we source our foods. They're going to be, our whole goal is to source locally, meaning local farmers, reduce the amount of travel time from the provider to the store, those kind of things, make sure that we do sustainable packaging. Those are kind of ideas, the core values that people are trying to look for today, make better, healthier foods, and knowing where our food is coming from. So, and that's in a nutshell what we're trying to do. We have more information over at the table. If you want to stop by, it also talks about 25 reasons why we want to do a food co-op. So it's there for that type of stuff. We also have little brochures that you can go to our website, watch some of our videos that we've developed, talking about where we're thinking about putting the store, how we can control you. When we say we, all of us, how we can control the food chain, how the food gets from the farmer to our store, and how the money stays inside the community. So in a nutshell, that basically is it. So does anybody have any questions?
So if I go over to the table and say, is Ward Stewart already signed up, will you not?
I'm sorry, say that again.
She wants to know if her husband's already signed up.
Oh,
Will I know that?
No, I don't have that information at this point in time. So,
Okay.
we'll find out. We'll find out for you. But the thing is, you can always email us and we'll talk about that. Also, just wanted to did remind me that tomorrow night at the Coal Shed over on Mare Island, we're going to have a basic bingo. It's going to start at 6 p.m. So you can come over and stop by and listen to the music. There's going to be local music there.
The brewing company. So there's gonna be a jazz R&B singer that the brewery has every Friday. We can go there, have a beer. If you are co-op curious, you wanna know more. It's gonna be both owners and people who wanna know more about the co-op. Have a good time, have a beer, and chat a little more about it. Or you can approach the table later if you want more information. Subscribe to our newsletter. You get a little brochure with a QR code that takes you to the website, so you can find out more. And we can bring here a grocery store that is owned by us with local produce and supporting the local economy.
Yeah, one thing I want to stress too is that this is not a subscription service or anything like that. This is a one-time $300 investment. When they get the critical mass for the investors and the owners, then they will get loans and do the site, finalize the site, the location and such. So that's basically how it works. Right? It's not like they're going to be coming after you, hunting after you for a lot of money every month or anything.
No.
How many owners are you up to now?
580.
And how many?
1,200.
1,200 for the
To open the store.
Yeah, the site search is like at 800.
800 tips. So we're
Is there one of these stores located somewhere where we can go see how they're operating?
Davis Food Co-op.
Also Rainbow Supermarket in San Francisco.
Rainbow is
many
one
examples.
Rainbow is a member of, excuse me, I'm sorry, worker-owned co-op, but it's still a co-op. It's like REI. It's a cooperative. And the nice thing about that is that we have the ability to work with, like I said, with our local farmers, local vendors, and those kind of things. Batteries are going on.
Yeah. Okay, so before the batteries go on, I do have a tethered one in case we need it. We have our mayor here, Andrea. Thank you, David, so much. We also, I want to remind people, we also have Randy here from Soul Trends with information at this table, the membership table over here for Glen Cove Food Association, the food co-op. What's this anywhere? I think that's it. All right. Welcome, Mayor.
So you all probably know me from many of these previous meetings, as I've been on the board for many years. So this is my first one without my GCCA badge on. And I wanted to at least say hi. I'll be at every single one of these that I can, and wanted to just give you all an update on what City Council's been up to since we swore in on January 7th. And if we have time to answer a few questions, I will say that we have, in addition to myself, we have a new representative for our district replacing Laura Diaz, and that is Tanya Lediju. Tanya is wonderful. Yeah. We both live in Glen Cove, and she is currently at the county in Fairfield for the Capsilano JPA meeting, which is our county, basically, cooperative agreement to address homelessness. And her day job is as CEO of the San Francisco Housing Authority. So having her as one of Vallejo's representatives on that body is really important and really powerful. So she told me to speak on her behalf as well, and sends her regrets. This is an important meeting for her to be at. Wanted to just share that we are really we've been working hard. We know there are issues in the city. There's been a lack of transparency, a lack of trust. We already heard a little bit about what the police department's doing to rebuild. The city council, we have been, there's normally a schedule of 2 meetings a month. We have a meeting every week, and so we had 2 meetings some weeks. We met on a Thursday one time, we met on a Saturday one time. We probably had 13 or 14 meetings just in the 10 weeks that we've been in, because we really felt like we wanted to show the urgency on these issues. So we've been looking at public safety. I don't have a ton to add to what DC Knight was saying about the public safety efforts, except just to say that one of the things that we really wanted to do was to look holistically at public safety and not take all these issues in isolation, but to look at all of the quality of life things, whether it's lighting and traffic calming and people running red lights, in addition to the gun violence and the sideshows and some of the mistrust. We have reforms that the department is implementing. So we're trying to look at all of that holistically to make sure we're putting the conditions in place where people really can feel like they're going to get a response, and that they can trust the city to respond, and like the city is investing in them and hearing them and responding to their needs. So that's going to take resources. We're trying to build that vision now, and then we're going to be working on getting the resources. I've been a really big advocate for interagency partnerships, and I was really fortunate that the department was already doing a lot of that before I came on, so it's a pretty seamless transition. And DC and I already talked about the partnership with the FBI and ATF, the public safety partnership. We are working on the contract with the Solano County Sheriff, which would impact us in Glen Cove. Both Councilmember Lediju and I support that. The hardest part is going to be funding. So that's going to be coming back on April 8th. If you're interested, please tune into that City Council meeting on April 8th, because we're going to be bringing back what it's going to take to fund it. I'm not going to lie, it's not going to be easy, because the city has been balancing its budget for many years on salary savings. It was something I talked about during the campaign. So we're facing probably about an $8 million structural deficit right now. Every city's facing a structural deficit, but Vallejo, this is the first time that we're really kind of facing it and trying to start that process and look at it. So we're trying to get rid of that deficit, balance the budget, and find $11 million for the sheriff. And we're going to be doing that in the coming weeks and talking about that. I'll say that the chief of police and the sheriff put a lot of effort, and probably DCI was involved too, I would imagine, in building that model that he was talking about with the sheriff covering the 4 beats for 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And they put together sort of a term sheet and agreement. It was kind of sitting around waiting for administrative, and this city council took over, and we took the wheels of the bus. And so now I'm meeting with the sheriff, and we're trying to kind of iron out some of the logistical and political aspects of that agreement. So Councilmember Ledger and I both have gone and met with the sheriff in Fairfield, and we're really committed to it. I can't promise again because there's constraints, but please, weigh in, pay attention, stay in touch on that. And then in addition, we're going to be doing a lot of work around the unhoused. There's just been really no city response. I mean, we can see it, the quality of life and just the visibility in the city. Nobody's happy with it. There's really nowhere for folks to go. Our public spaces, are not clean. It becomes magnets for dumping and crime and things like that, and everybody's just trying to keep themselves safe. So we have a special meeting on Tuesday to continue to talk about the unhoused. Like I said, we got Tanya. We're all first name. We're all in Glencoe. We got Tanya up at the JPA right now, and we're going to be advocating for resources for that. So that's going to be an ongoing discussion. And then the other thing that I wanted to share with you, specific to Glencoe, and I'll be happy to come to any of these and as many of these and find ways to continue to engage with folks. So please, even though we're a little limited on time, and I want to make sure our school board folks come up and our school district folks. I just want to say that we're really trying to make the city more transparent. I do get, on any given day, I have about 200 unread emails. So if you email me, I read it, but I mark it as unread so that I don't forget to reply, and it's not going well so far. So I just to be honest, if you email me, I get it, I read it. Many people have emailed us about Sansera. Because of how planning processes work and planning and zoning and development decisions work, you will see us only listening. We have to only listen. We can't express any opinion or presume anything, but if you send us an email about it, we'll get it, we'll read it, we'll receive it. Always feel free to reach out. I wanted to invite Soul Trans today, and this was a little last minute, so Joseph knows if I had given him a little bit more warning, we could have actually gotten them to do a bit more of the program, but as mayor, I sit on the board of a few important agencies. I sit on the board of the Water Agency for Solano County with Supervisor Brown. All the Solano County supervisors and mayors are on this board, and we are fighting for our water rights as the state tries to make policy changes. And then I'm on the board of 2 transit agencies, the Solano Transportation Authority, which is out in Sassoon, and that board is all the mayors and one of our county supervisors. And I'm also on the board of Soul Trans, which is our local transit agency. Those are the buses that you see, the 8, going up and down Glencoe Parkway. And I'll say, Soul Trans, they're amazing. They're electrifying their buses, their staff, their drivers. They're wonderful. Transit has just changed very much in the last 5-6 years. Transit agencies are just struggling because ridership isn't where it was before the pandemic. And so they've put in a lot of effort to do what they're calling a COA, Comprehensive Operational Analysis. And Mandy has been at the forefront of that over there. I don't know if we have maybe I don't want to put you on the spot, Mandy, but I might have you just say a couple words about it. But basically what they did is they extensively surveyed their ridership and got a consultant with expertise in transit to look at all the bus routes, the ridership on all the bus routes, and how we can make improvements that will get us back into a better budget and be more right-sized for the current climate now, but also improve options for riders. So they're looking at a model right now that would increase the frequency of a lot of the routes that are really popular, but it would decrease the number of routes. You all probably know where I'm going with this. One of the routes that would be eliminated in this model is the 8. And I think we can all, we all know that's it, that's all we've got, but a lot of people don't take it. There's not a huge ridership for it. So one of the things that I want to invite everyone to do is if you do take the 8, or you know people who take the 8, or you know people that rely on transit, we really need to hear from them as part of this public engagement. They're doing about another 30 or so days maybe of public input before they do another draft of this. And in as much as we can identify the reasons people take the bus in Glencoe and when they take the bus in Glencoe, even if we do have to cut the 8, which is probably going to happen, if if the public comment period goes a certain way, I don't want to say that it's set in stone, but it is just, we know how the geography of Glen Cove. We're very car dependent, and so if we do end up having to cut the 8, what I'm going to try to do is use my role on STA, the Solano Transit Authority, to get us some resources for the people that need, like, they have some programs through their Solano Mobility, First Last Mile, things that maybe can get, if there's elderly folks or people with disabilities, we can get them transit from their home to the nearest bus station, which I think is going to be at New Bedford and Glencoe Parkway. So that's just kind of where we're at with that. But I wanted to flag you because by the time we have another meeting, it'll be too late to give input. So I wanted to let you all know that that's happening. Please spread the word. That is going to impact us in Glen Cove. So Mandy, do you want to share anything else? Maybe let them know how they can get input. Sure.
Yeah. Hi everyone. Mandy Renshaw with Soul Trans. Andrew did an amazing job explaining the project and the rationale for why we're looking at it. I think it's very true that the way people are using public transportation has changed very differently. The way people are traveling and using the highways and the freeways and the streets around here has changed since the pandemic. And Soul Trans needs to do something to address that, to become more frequent service, to coordinate more at the Little Transit Center. So the 8, yes, is a concept that we are considering that we need public feedback on. No decision is made. Andrew won't be a part of that decision process, but right now we're collecting public feedback so that way we can revise these plans to bring something back out to what the board can approve on. So this segment of the 8 is up for conversation. It does have very low ridership. The ridership that does use it is students connecting and getting to the middle school or the high school. And I want to assure you that that school tripper will continue to serve the Glen Cove area. So the school trippers that are connecting students to the middle school and the high school, we're working with the school district. That service will continue as it currently is. That is my number 1 priority. I also spearheaded the Youth Ride Free program, so if you don't know, all youth on all of Soul Trans service, whether you're going to school, whether you're going to work, whether you're going to play, whether you just want to ride the bus because it's fun, they're all free. They just have to tell the driver they're under 18, so we do have a Youth Ride Free program. And paratransit. So if you have a cognitive or physical disability that prevents you from using the fixed route service, the way you use your paratransit service today with the 8 and the way that the paratransit map is drawn will not change as well. So if you use that paratransit service, we will still continue to provide that service to you in Glen Cove. If you like this idea, please let us know. If you don't like this idea, please let us know. There also are other concepts. If you do use the other services or the express services that connect you within the county or to the regional connectors of cars, we do need to hear from you so that we can revise this plan to come back to you and say, hey, we heard you. Transit doesn't work if the public isn't riding it. We won't be a system. So what's stopping you from using the system? I need to hear from you. If you would use it more often, if we did A, B, or C, I need to hear from you. We need to build a transit system that is reliable and efficient for you, so that it is successful. Thank you.
So I think she has some giveaways too, some information. So please just swing by and grab some stuff from Soul Trans and spread the word. And that reminded me of one other thing that I was going to say that I've now forgotten. Oh, because we were talking about transit, I remembered that someone had asked about the sheriff's support, and I wanted to say that we're not stopping at the CHP support for sideshows. That is a really important support, and I have to say I've been on a few ride-alongs because I was on the surveillance board working with PD, but one of them that I was on, they actually broke up a sideshow by calling it a Barricade Canyon PD to cover the north, and Benicia PD and the sheriff to cover the southwest, and then they pushed the sideshow down Sonoma Boulevard and out of Vallejo. It was pretty impressive. So it makes a big difference. There's still value in getting more support, and so one of the things that I'm looking at is there's going to be a major Caltrans project on Sonoma Boulevard because it's a state highway, and I'm hoping that we can get some more support on Sonoma Boulevard. So I'm still actively pursuing that as well. And then I know we're kind of far from North Vallejo, but there's a really huge project up at the fairgrounds exit of 37, which is going to be a diverging diamond, the first ever in the region don't ask me what a diverging diamond is. They told me you'll understand it when you use it and it'll be great. And so I'm putting a lot of trust in them for that. But that's supposedly going to be really wonderful and collaborative for Vallejo. And then I'm on the policy committee for the rest of 37. We're trying to deal with that big project that could potentially put a toll on 37. So lots going on with respect to transit and public safety and all that. Let's get the school district folks up here. I don't want to lose them. Yeah, shout out, Dina.
For the diamond, is that because of the casino or?
No, it has nothing to do with it. That's a oh yeah, the casino. Busy 10 weeks for first 10 weeks. Yeah, I didn't have any casino on my list of things that were going to land while I was coming in, but that's an ongoing development. This was something they had already planned. So that exit just wasn't meeting the needs. You already have 6 Flags over there, and it just wasn't meeting the needs, and it was kind of the infrastructure wasn't up to par, and so they got a huge amount of funding to do a total redo of that intersection with the goal of also accommodating future development. Essentially, like the fairgrounds.
It's like a prototype.
Yeah, I think they've done it other places, but it'll be the first in our area.
Yeah, so
It's supposed to be, I mean, it looks really slick, the renderings look really nice. Again, I don't understand as a drive. They just said it's really user-friendly, and once you drive it, you'll understand it, so fingers crossed. But it'll accommodate the fairgrounds, 6 Flags. It's one of the gateways into the city, so it'll be really nice. And that'll be completed by probably a year from today. By next February or March, we'll see that completely done. One of the other things I'm on as mayor is the 2x2 with the school district that has 2 board members of the school district and 2 members of the Vallejo City Council. And for the first time ever, we have the president of the school board and the mayor on the 2x2, which is Mr. Fox. He and we both little blood folks, so there you go.
Good evening, everyone. 22 years here in Glen Cove. I was on this board for many years. President of the school district right now. I'll give you a few updates. One of the things we're doing on Nebraska Street outside Vallejo High School is we're looking to close the street during the school day for calming and just to secure the school better. Right now, actually during spring break, these next 2 weeks, the city, we're putting in speed humps along Nebraska to deter people from cruising or from any type of speeding on that street. But we're looking at eventually getting big gates that will open and close just during the school day on Nebraska Street. Another thing that's been going on a lot is copper theft. So when we talk about people coming here for sideshows, our copper theft in here in Vallejo is huge. We had to close the school for over a week because of the copper theft. When they come to our schools and steal the copper theft, it can be 50,000, it can be, was it 250,000. That comes out of our general fund that should be going towards our students, and our insurance will not pay for it. For the years this has been going on, our insurance has raised our deductible because we have too many copper thefts. They will not insure it. Us, we have to pay it. So it's just sickening that here in Vallejo we're known as come here for copper theft, come here for the sideshows. Another safety concern around our schools. On Sonoma Boulevard, we have a school, Lincoln Elementary School. We've been asking for years for the prostitution there. Can we have that addressed? When students are walking to and from school, they should not have to deal with drug deals or prostitution or whatever is going on there in front of our children. So we're dealing with that as well. And we've made progress on that. There's some new laws that are helping going after the Johns and taking pictures of the cars. Of course, all these people are from other places. They bring it into Vallejo, all of these things. They bring all these things to us. They can do it here. They think they can. The other thing, unfortunately, we're doing right now, like the rest of America, is we're having to close schools, which is very, very painful. A lot of our schools are maybe 40% occupied. So we're looking at maybe putting neighborhood schools together, but it's really hard. It's really hard on the families, the kids, and that's a place that's known in the community. I'm not looking at this for right now. But we have just closed and finalized for a few schools, and we're looking at phase 2 now. And we have to by the state and the county, because you can't have 19 schools that is just not enough kids. We don't have the enrollment. One thing we need help with is getting students to school every day. If we get better attendance every day, our money goes up for our funding for our kids. If we can keep students in our schools, our money goes up for our kids and for our school district. So we're fighting hard to try to show how valuable our Vallejo students are, and please keep them enrolled here, and they are safe. We're doing everything we can. It's great working with the mayor on the 2x2 once a month, talking about all these issues, and now we're finally partnered with the city of Vallejo, with the police, with GVRD, with all the entities we need to keep our students in school safe. I don't know what else. Anyways, this is our superintendent, Ruben Aurelio, and I'd like to introduce him, and maybe he has something.
You covered a lot there. It's good. You have your list. Good evening, everyone. I do want to say this, Glencoe is a gem of the school, just so you know that. They were recognized earlier this year. The state superintendent is at Glencoe recognizing the work that this school has done with early literacy. So we're really proud of the work they're doing. And as he mentioned, this is not a school we are looking at in our consolidation process. Yes. But as John mentioned, enrollment, attendance, all those things matter, especially as we start to consider the next phase of budget reductions, consolidation. You can counterbalance that with increased revenue, and you only get that when people commit to their public school system. And so we're doing everything in our effort to have people think VCUSD first. Think of our schools first, commit to our schools, so they also start to see the improvement we're working on and realize that. We know it's an uphill battle. We know that the narrative has been negative for many years, and we're working to change that. So if you have neighbors that have littles, tell them to look at our schools first. Thank you.
Also, real quick, people have been asking about, with the dismantling of the Federal Department of Education, what does that mean? Well, the Department of Education helps with special education. So that may move to a different, was it Human and Health Services? We're not sure. Canon. And then the title money and other services, we're just not sure. Everything's up in the air, and every day we hear new things, and unfortunately things may be in the courts for a while. So if our local public school districts, we wait for the governor in May. We get the proposed budget in January, and then in May we get the final revised budget, what we get to work with to fund our schools. So we're still waiting till May, and there's so many things up in the air every day trying to figure out what will be next. I don't know if you have anything else about it. Oh, it's just sad. It's been there for 45 years. Jimmy Carter started it. And it also helps with the disparity between poverty and the rich, the haves and the have-nots. So this is going to cause a much bigger disparity between the haves and have-nots. Huge.
The only thing I would add is, there's a lot of misinformation out there around what we do, especially around equity. It's thrown out there. And the reality is, if you ask anyone, you want to see kids succeed, regardless of who they are. And so the funding we receive, especially from federal government, is earmarked for specific groups of students. What it's not earmarked for is race. It's never been earmarked for race. So that's a lot of misinformation out there. It's about income, it's about special needs, it's about foster youth, as well as homeless and inhabitants. Those are the categories, not race. So just know when you hear these dog whistles, let's be honest, it's not about the work we're doing with equity and race.
Are the food programs for children affected at all?
So we're currently still on Feeding All. That's a state thing, but we are on watch, and so we're being mindful of that as well.
You mentioned the prostitution right by the school. That always bothered me. That's also Highway 29, isn't it? So can't the highway patrol them and round them up and get them out of here?
Well, what Chief Todd told us at the last 2x2 last month was they're actually going after with the new, I don't know what the AB law is, but there's new AB laws that talk about going after the Johns and the ones that are promoting the prostitution. And they're taking pictures of the license plates and trying to track them, and that's using also scare tactics when trying to deter. The more they can deter or show a presence, the better. I don't know about the highway patrol, maybe Mayor does.
Yeah, I actually brought this up with our state representative, our assembly member is the head of the transportation committee for the state legislature, which is a huge deal and really wonderful for us. The highway patrol mainly focuses on traffic enforcement, so they're really useful for us in deterring sideshows. They're really useful for us in terms of reckless driving on things like Sonoma Boulevard. So getting their support on Sonoma Boulevard would be tremendously impactful. I personally believe that the deterrent effect is huge. So if you have highway patrol going up and down Sonoma Boulevard and, you know, peeking down those side streets, I do think that would make a difference, even if highway patrol isn't tasked specifically with that. And then the hope also would be that if you have that additional support, and we can get support from somebody like the sheriff in other parts of Vallejo, that would then free up DPD officers on patrol to be able to go to those locations and do more apprehension and deterrent and just have more of a presence. Because that's been, I mean, it's just a tragedy, the way that the human trafficking, and we're on this I-80 corridor, we're a victim of our location in some ways, Vallejo, because we have so many folks that are just trafficked right through our city, and so it's, going after the Johns, personally, I'm very supportive of, and then we have the federal law enforcement agency as well. I'll start talking louder.
Yeah,
We have the federal law enforcement as well can help us with the interstate trafficking, so there's some opportunities for partnership there too. I hear what you're saying, and I had the same question. Yeah.
Another minute.
Question. The closing and consolidation of the schools in the school district will not affect the jobs that are being posted on EdJoin.org.
So what you see posted now are positions we will be hiring. I think people confuse that when we close a school that, yes, we're reducing certain positions, but we're always looking to fill other positions. There's a shifting that happens between our schools. So the jobs that you see on EdJoin are school jobs.
Because there are positions there that are being posted and it's still being there for about a month or so. So that means it's not being filled yet.
It depends on if we're talking about current year or for 25 for next school year. So we are hiring for next school year.
Sorry about your dying, but I do want to also remind people of one other important thing I forgot to mention. So we are a Firewise neighborhood. Some of you may actually get up to 8% off your insurance, your homeowner insurance. We have certificates that say that this is a Firewise neighborhood. We're also the first Firewise neighborhood within the municipality in Solano County. So we can do our own more about that. If you need to prove your insurance carrier or you're being threatened with being dropped, like I was, then you can at least mitigate that perhaps by next year in the Firewise. There you go. That's what it is. Certificates that fire insurance carriers over the Firewise. What is like this? What it should be is how the insurance company use the policy. We are Firewise. Cal Fire is lower than the fire rate. Is minimal. So that's going to help our fire insurance rates probably stay the same. Yeah, we can't promise it'll go down, but it's good for our neighborhood. So I know we're at time. Sorry about the microphone. Always contact
How are you? Very good. How are you doing? Nice to see you. Nice to see you too. I need one of those certificates.